Hey, here we go. It's the day we've all been waiting for. It's Friday, October 11. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Bill Press Show this fine, that's a rainy Friday morning here in our nation's capital, but we won't let it interfere with our business of the day, which, as always, is to look around here in Washington, D.C., look around the country, look around the globe, and tell you what's going on, and most importantly, get your comments. Remember, it's a two-way street here. You can join the conversation anytime at 866-55-PRESS. Give us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Today, President Obama will continue the series of meetings he's been having down at the White House with members of both parties from the United States Congress. 2 days ago, he met with all the House Democrats. Yesterday, he met with all the Senate Democrats and about 18 or 20 House Republicans. Today, he will meet with Senate Republicans. There is now an offer on the table, an offer that came from John Boehner, which says we will lift the debt ceiling, but only for 6 weeks, and meanwhile, we will leave the government shut down. President Obama has not yet either accepted or rejected that offer, but he ought to reject it. He ought to throw it out the window fast. It's a bad deal. Why raise the debt ceiling for only 6 weeks? We really want to be back in this in November. And why continue to let people suffer because of this government shutdown while the Republicans demand an end to Obamacare? Bad deal. Meanwhile, In other news, Edward Snowden has resurfaced in Moscow with a visit from some American whistleblowers, and the former mayor of Detroit sentenced to 28 years in prison. All that and more right here on The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go. Guess what? It is a Friday. Hey, Dad, it's Friday. Hey, Dad, it's Friday. Here we go. You can't hide, Peter. You can't hide.
I'm trying.
It is. It is Friday, October 11. We love Fridays around the Bill Press Show. Yes, indeed. Good morning, everybody. Great to see you this morning. Thank you for joining us on the Bill Press Show. Oh, man. Can we just...
Calgon, take me away!
Can we just push the clock back and start all over
Yeah,
again?
let's start again. There we go.
Let's start again.
Happy Friday!
Hey, it's Friday, October 11th. Good morning, everybody. It's Friday. This is the Bill Press Show. We get a little squirrely, a little wiggy, and squirrely around here on a Friday, but it's good to see you this morning. Man, it's not a fun time to be in Washington, D.C. Actually, it's pretty grim with all the talk about. All we talk about is shutdown, and debt ceiling. This is day 11 of the shutdown, and John Boehner says, what do I care? I'm getting paid. I don't care if we ever end the shutdown. I don't care if all those federal employees get paid or not, or all those contractors get paid or not. He's got all that he wants. Hey, good morning, everybody. Great to see you again this morning. We're coming to you live from our nation's capital. And remember, we want to hear from you as to what the news of the day means to you. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Join us on Twitter at BP Show and Crossfire. Crossfire?
See you later.
Wait a minute.
Just going to leave.
I don't know. I used to do Crossfire.
Yeah.
It's just I changed jobs here, so it's taken me a while to get used to the transition.
Holy cow.
Join us on TawkrTV at youtube.com/TawkrTV.
I make a lot of jokes about how you drink gin in the morning out of that cup. I'm not so sure if those are jokes.
Good morning. That's Peter Henning here, right? With Dan Ogburn.
God.
Yeah.
Everybody's
No, I'm
here.
going to leave.
Alicia Cruz has got the phones covered. And Cyprian Balding, somebody sober around here, on the video cam.
Yeah, Cyprian's got a cup of something.
All right. Good morning.
Hi there.
Hi,
How are you?
How's everything going?
Good. Happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday, man. I got to tell you. If this is the first 3 minutes of the show, what's the next 3 hours?
Just imagine how exciting today's show is going to be.
God, if I were watching, I would stay tuned or listening. I would stay tuned until the very end to see how bad it could get. It can only go downhill from here, right? Well, that's what the A's fans must have thought yesterday. How's that for a transition? There they go. It was the A's versus the Tigers, game number 5.
Do or die.
And, do or die. Detroit can't do anything right except, man, they can play some baseball.
Smith now waiting on the 2-1. On the way, swinging a high fly ball to right field, shallow. This should do it. Hunter comes in. He makes the catch.
Oh, man.
And the Tigers have done it again. For a third straight year, the Tigers have won a Game 5 on the road, and they are Boston bound for the American League Championship Series with a 3-0 win.
There they go. Beat the A's. Tigers beating the A's 3-0. They go to Boston when? Tomorrow night, Dan? Is that?
Yes, tomorrow is the start of the ALCS. Tonight is Los Angeles and that team from St. Louis.
Dodgers and in
Cardinals.
St. Louis?
Yes. No, in Los Angeles.
Starts out in Los Angeles.
Yeah, starts in
Los Angeles. Yeah. All right. Okay. Hey,
why don't we just put the Detroit Tigers in charge of running the city of Detroit? Because they seem to be doing things right.
Put their manager, let him run the city.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
they have been to the championship series 3 years in a row now.
That's impressive.
That is very impressive.
That's impressive.
That really is. Yeah. Seriously, for a city that's in such trouble, right?
And they also have a giant payroll for their baseball team.
Do they really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, their former mayor sentenced to 28 years in prison yesterday.
It was a day of highs and lows for Detroit.
It was. Man, it was indeed. Hey, we got a great lineup coming for you. Just among the guests that we will have this morning, Senator Sherrod Brown from Ohio. Also, Susan Paige joining us as she does every Friday from USA Today, Washington Bureau Chief, and Neil King, senior political correspondent for the Wall Street Journal, with some shocking news for Republicans about how low their ratings have sunk in the latest Wall Street Journal poll. And President Obama, should he take the deal John Boehner has offered? But first...
This is the Full Court Press.
Other headlines making news on this Friday. Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski want more TV time. The New York Post is reporting the MSNBC pair is eyeing the Sunday morning Weekend Today show slot, but they have not struck a deal yet to host it. This came on the same day as news was confirmed that Scarborough and his wife divorced back in January after 12 years of marriage. It's been a secret until now. They have 2 kids together, ages 5 and 10. That was, in fact, his second marriage.
And he has 2 kids by his first marriage, too.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, kudos to him.
Yeah.
I'm not saying about the divorce and everything, but being able to keep that secret with his job in this world with Twitter and everything from January until October.
Yeah, pretty impressive.
You never hear that.
Impressive.
Tell me how he did that, right?
Endurance swimmer Diana Nyad completed her 48-hour swim in a makeshift pool set up in Herald Square in New York City yesterday to raise money for Hurricane Sandy victims who she believes have been forgotten. She managed to pull in just over $100,000 for the Americares Foundation. She stopped only over 2 days to tread water, to eat, and hydrate during the swim.
Good for her, though. You know?
Wow.
Yeah. $100,000. Yeah, it's not bad. 48 hours in that pool.
Not bad. God. No jellyfish to contend with, so probably a little easier than swimming from Cuba to Florida.
Yeah, no sharks. Right.
Yeah. I can't believe I'm reading the story, but as America's newsman, I must. 0-6.
Wait. America's newsman?
That's what he called me yesterday, so I'm going with. That's what Peter called me yesterday, so that's what I'm going with. That's my new title.
Next, we'll be getting the Nobel Prize.
I was going to say,
Nobel Prize
winner
for news reading.
0-6. It is the New York Giants' worst start since 1976. What happened?
Cyprian's just nobody's happier about this than Cyprian.
It's the Giants' worst start since 1976. That year they went 0-9. They lost last night 27-21 to the Chicago Bears, who intercepted quarterback Eli Manning 3 times. The Bears ending a 2-game losing streak after winning their first 3, so they are now 4-2. The Giants have to play 2 more weeks before they get a week off to rethink things.
This is why sports is so amazing, right? Because Eli Manning is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL if you look at results, right? Like, he's won a couple of Super Bowls.
Right. And
he looks horrible right now.
And he's throwing all these interceptions. Yeah.
He's throwing them like crazy, giving the ball away.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Yes, indeed, particularly for falling on your sword for the Giants there. Down at the White House yesterday, a lot of contention at the briefing because it's unclear exactly where the White House is coming down on this latest offer. So here's the deal. Put it in context. The president is having a whole series of meetings at the White House with members of Congress, Democrats and Republicans. 2 days ago, we called all the House Democrats down for a big meeting in the East Room of the White House. And I've talked to several members who were there who said it was a real lively discussion, and some of the members really kind of took on the president, particularly Eleanor Holmes Norton from Washington, D.C. Yesterday, the president met with all the Senate Democrats at one time in the dining room of the White House, state dining room. And then yesterday afternoon, he had invited all the Republicans down to the White House, but John Boehner decided instead they would send a delegation. He was part of it. 18 to 20 House Republicans sat down with the president in the Roosevelt Room, and they had a long meeting. And that meeting came an inconclusive meeting, we're told. But that meeting came on the heels of a deal or a proposal that John Boehner put on the table early yesterday afternoon, just before our briefing. His proposal said, we will we will raise the debt ceiling for 6 weeks only, and then we will leave the government shut down while we start negotiating on the budget. And if we can reach agreement on our negotiations, then we will consider reopening the government. Of course, we wanted to know from Jay Carney whether the president would accept that deal. First of all, on the debt ceiling, Carney made it clear that the president thinks this ought to be done for the long term and not just for 6 weeks.
We'll see what the House Republicans propose. We'll see what they're able to pass and consider it then. The president said the other day that on the hypothetical, he would be willing to do this because he thinks that we need to avoid default.
And Jay Carney said, though overall, what was encouraging was that it looked like that people were finally coming to their senses.
The president is happy that cooler heads at least seem to be prevailing in the House, that there at least seems to be a recognition that default is not an option.
So on the first one, on the debt ceiling, again, Carney said we'd prefer it longer term, but we would accept it short term. And then on the second part of the deal about leaving the government shut down, Carney said, we want the debt ceiling lifted and we want the government reopened. We want both, but I'm quoting him here. One, he said, is better than none. If we can only get one of the two, he indicated, he didn't say it very clearly, but it indicated they would take just one of the two, which I think is a huge, huge mistake. Tell me what you think. Should the president take this deal? Remember, the deal, as it's on the table, is raise the debt ceiling, 6 weeks only, leave the government shut down. Good deal, bad deal, take it. Yes or no, 866-55-PRESS. That's the toll-free number. I'd say no to that deal. No way to that deal. Number one, and by the way, so officially now, again, Carney told us at the briefing they would take the deal. After the meeting yesterday, the president did not take the deal, but he didn't reject it either. So it's still up there. It's still out on the table. I think the president should have just said, absolutely no way, no how, don't insult me with that deal. Because here's what's wrong with it. First of all, raising the debt ceiling only for 6 weeks? I mean, that is insane. That's nuts. That means, think about it. We're going to be back in the soup in November. We get 6 weeks. I mean, 6 weeks. They only work 2 days a week here at the Congress. And then they take every other week off, right? I mean, 6 weeks is nothing. And what kind of certainty does that give the global markets? What kind of certainty does that give the American market? People who want to invest, business leaders or whatever. I mean, it's insane. Number one. Number two, why leave the government shut down? There are real people hurting out there. What about all these federal employees from all these different agencies who've been out now 11 days? Their bills are going to start coming due. They're not getting paid. Members of Congress are getting paid, so what the hell do they care? But why continue? All these kids thrown out a head start, all these women and who can't get their WIC program and their WIC products at the market. All these people throwing all the food stamps. You go on and on and on. Why leave that go on for another week or 2 weeks or 6 weeks? What's the deal with that? This is a bad deal, if you ask me, and the president ought to reject it. The president should not cave. And one of the reasons he shouldn't cave, look at the latest numbers. He's on top of the world right now, right? 53% of Americans in the latest poll, saw it on MSNBC this morning, blame the Republicans in Congress for this shutdown. 31% blame the president, but 53% blame Republicans in Congress. And the rating of Congress now, approval rating of Congress is down to 5%. Yeah, reject this deal pretty soon. Their approval rating will go down to 1%. This is a bad deal. I think the president should reject it. Do not take this deal. It's my vote. What's yours? 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes you.
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Yep, in the latest 25 minutes after the hour, the latest Wall Street Journal poll shows that 24% of Americans have a favorable opinion of the Republican Party. 24%. That is lower than it was in 1995 during the last government shutdown. So they're doing even worse today than they did under Newt Gingrich, and yet John Boehner doesn't give a rat's ass. Peter.
Yeah, lots of comments on Twitter at BP Show. Richard Jones says, open the government, raise the debt ceiling for a year, and then we'll talk.
No, that's it.
No
exactly.
deal.
No deal. No deal.
Perry Reunions agrees it's a horrible deal. It has to include reopening the government. This should also be at least through February. So you could find us on Twitter at BP Show to join in that conversation.
There is no reason By the way, this idea that you have to come up with something for Republicans to save face, where'd that come from? Why? Why let John Boehner save face? Let him fall flat on his face. The whole crowd. They're the ones who shut down the government. Then they ought to reopen it, and the president should not even talk to them. I'm even sorry he's having these talks at the White House, to tell the truth. I say, you reopen the government. You act like grown-ups, all right? And then I'll talk to you. Otherwise, I'd go to a kindergarten class. Miley is calling from out in Hayward, California, listening on KNEW 960 AM. Hi, Miley.
Good morning.
Good morning. You take this deal?
I am getting right to the point. Absolutely not. We should not take this deal. These people are trying to hold us hostage, us and our children hostage. Forget it.
Yeah. No, absolutely, Miley. That's exactly what it is. And I don't know why the president doesn't see it that way. Don't even consider this deal. Joey's in Chicago. We know that. Hey, Joey.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Hey.
Why would you make a deal with somebody with 5%? Why would you even bargain? Why would you even talk with somebody with a 5% approval rating? You got to be kidding me. Just stick to your guns, Democrats. We got this one. Please do not. We need a year. These guys act like my kids did when they didn't get their way when they were 4 and 5 years old. They hold their breath, they jump up and down and turn blue. We need it for a year, Bill, 1 year, or don't even talk to them. I love you guys.
All right. Thank you, Joey. Love you back. Yes, indeed. We need it for 1 year. I agree. And reopen the government. I mean, for the president to accept any deal that continues the government shutdown, to me, would be not only a bad deal, it would contradict his message. It would undercut everything that he's achieved over the last 10 days. Let's continue to talk about this. You know the deal on the table. Should the president take it or reject it? Give us a call, 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. When I say dot, I want you to just push the area.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, so we are here in our nation's capital, 33 minutes after the hour, and after 11 days of this madness. I think the sure sign that the pressure is getting to John Boehner and the Republicans is that they came to the White House yesterday after putting a proposal on the table. The question is a proposal even worth considering? I don't think so. It's a crappy proposal. It doesn't give us anything in either direction. It would lift the debt ceiling, but only for 6 weeks, which just is, I mean, you can't govern that way. You can't do business that way. It will not help out at all. Only 6 weeks. Meanwhile, they would leave the government shut down. And so continue for all these millions and millions of Americans who are hurting, experiencing real difficulties as a result of this government shutdown, from tourism to contractors to federal employees across the board. But of course, you see these members of Congress, they live in the bubble. They don't feel it because they're still getting paid. Hey, and what the hell? Their gym is open.
That's right.
They may have to do their own towels, but their gym is open. So, you know, so that's the Boehner proposal. I can't believe the president would even consider it. He's in the driver's seat here, man. He is totally in the driver's seat. He ought to just say, no way, no how. Don't insult the American people. Come back with a serious offer. But whatever you do, first, open the government. Reopen the government. Act like a grown-up. Then we'll talk.
There are a lot of ways to reach out and join the show. You can call us. You could join us on Twitter at BP Show. But one way that people are having a lot of fun with, we are online streaming video at youtube.com/TawkrTV, TawkrTV. And we have a chat room there where people are watching and sort of joining in the show as we go along. Lots of good people there.
From all over the world.
All over the world.
Belarus, big. We're big in Belarus.
Huge in Belarus. Yes, indeed. Faustin Lennon says, I think the POTUS should not make a deal because the conservatives should be forced to do the job they were hired to do, namely legislate, and goes on, says we have them on the ropes. It's time for a KO.
Mainly pay their bills.
Yeah,
right?
Yes, exactly. KSP Taylor says, couldn't have said it better. Our part-time Congress wants a part-time government. If you want to join in the chat room, go to youtube.com/TawkrTV, TawkrTV, and join in there.
In Sebring, Florida. Hello, Laura. Good morning.
Good morning. And I'm going to give you a big fat no on that.
No on the deal, right?
Oh, no. Definitely no.
Yeah, I agree. What?
We need an exterminator in that house. There's a bunch of rodents running around, and we got to get rid of them.
Well, we could call in Tom DeLay. He's not going to be going to prison. The exterminator, Tom DeLay.
I'm telling you, these people are wackadoodles.
Yeah, not even take it seriously, Laura. I totally agree. Good to hear from you. Patty is out in Yuma, Arizona. Hi, Patty.
Hi.
Hey, what's going on? What do you think of this deal?
Well, I think, first of all, it's not a deal. I think this is a spoiled child throwing a temper tantrum, screaming and kicking on the floor. And basically, you teach people how to treat you. And if we even listen to that, we are just fools. So I say, let it go as long as it's going to go, because everybody knows where it started and who's to blame for it.
Yeah, I mean, at a very minimum, they've got to reopen the government and lift the debt ceiling, right? Then we can talk about other stuff. But
I don't even know about that. I mean, let John Boehner take the fall for this. He's the one stopping everything.
Yeah, I said earlier, I don't see any reason to give him some face-saving device, right? Screw it.
Of course not. He's a screaming, temper tantrum throwing child.
Yeah, and he's the one who did it. They're the ones that shut it down. Then they've got to take the responsibility. They've got to live and be held accountable for their arrogance and their meanness and their big mistakes. Sarah in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. Hello, Sarah.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Yes, I say no deal. I'm hoping Obama do not give in. A lot of these people are anti-government, and they've been after destroying the government for years. No deal. No deal. Hang in there, President Obama, please.
All right, Sarah, your word is loud and clear. We thank you for the call. I'm telling you, I think, we've got, the president's got to know on this one, we got it back, right? We got his back.
Yep.
Don't take a deal, Mr. President. There's no pressure. No, I would rather see no deal than a bad deal.
I think a lot of people feel that way. Yeah,
no
absolutely.
deal is better than a bad deal. And this whole idea, well, half a loaf is better than none. No, it's not. Not half a loaf. Half a loaf means that the federal government remains shut down. Half a loaf means 800,000 men, women who have their families, got bills to pay, are just out there not working, not getting paid. Vital functions of the government are not being fulfilled, all because of John Boehner's peak. No, screw it. Stephen in Kingsport, Kingsport bouncing around the country today.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Kingsport, Tennessee. Hello, Stephen.
Hello, Bill. Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you, too. What's going on?
I'm wondering, when did we stop doing a budget for a year at a time? What is this crap about this continuing resolution that we have to run every 6 weeks? They used to do a budget every time. It used to be done in May or June.
Yep.
What's wrong with those Republicans? Are they crazy? Are they on dope or what?
Well, Stephen, now they've gotten into this idea that they can hold us hostage till they get what they want before they pass a budget, right? Or they can demand ransom. Oh yeah, their job is to pass a budget. They're saying now, well, we'll do our job, but first, as somebody said, you got to throw in a convertible and a new color TV set.
Well, I can't do that when I go to the Kmart.
You're right. Try it sometime. All right. Hey, Stephen.
I like Stephen. No, I like to hear those regional voices out there.
But that's something everybody can relate to.
Absolutely.
When you go to the Kmart, you can't say, "Yeah, I'll give you the price you want here, right? For this. Let's see, color TV. As long as you throw in a new washer and dryer, right? Or here's the bill that I owe you for this month, but I'll pay that as long as you throw in the Cadillac." And the puppy.
Yeah.
Don't forget the puppy.
And if that's an analogy that people can really, truly understand. Like the president said the other day, you can't go to the bank and say, I want an Xbox. I mean, it's exactly what they're doing, and it's something that people can understand.
So having said that, and he's right, for this deal or this proposal to come along, then the president shouldn't even consider it. I mean, the fact that they had this meeting yesterday, number one, why meet with them if they won't agree ahead of time to open the government? But then after the meeting, he doesn't reject it outright. They're just going to the staff is going to continue to talk. The staff from both sides is going to continue to. No, this is not even worth talking about. This is a non-starter. Matthew up in Boston, Mass. Hey, Matthew.
Hi, how are you, Bill?
I'm good, thanks. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm an 83-year-old African American. 83 years old. I've been watching this kind of stuff for a long time.
You have.
The President of the United States needs to exhibit some unequivocal testicular fortitude.
Yep. Do you think he will? I mean, I think what you're saying is reject this proposal, right?
Absolutely. He will never be in as valuable a position as he is this moment in history to show the people what real leadership is, what real decision-making is.
Absolutely, Matthew. This is a time to stand up. This is President Obama's moment. Hey, Matthew, so good to hear from you and all of your great years of service to this country. Thanks for checking in with us. Do it again. And we'll welcome you back anytime. Steve in Perrysville, Indiana. Hello, Steve.
Hello.
Yeah, what up? What's up?
No, he shouldn't take no deal from them. Why would you take a deal from a drunkard?
Well, I'm not sure we have to go there, Steve. I understand what you mean, but let me put it this way. I'll paraphrase it. Why take a deal from a petulant baby or kid or, help me out, Peter.
I think you got it, like a crybaby. You don't.
Yeah, a crybaby. That's
One thing I've learned, right?
Yeah.
One thing I've learned as a parent is when my youngest child will throw a fit when he doesn't get his way. And you know what you don't do? You don't give him what he wants when he's throwing a fit, because that will only reinforce that negative behavior. It will empower him, which is not unlike how a lot of the Republicans are acting over this.
Well, I just know, our callers and our listeners, our viewers, those who email, those who call, I think we're pretty clear where we're coming from, Mr. President, which is, you're in the driver's seat. You don't have to take this bad deal. This is a bad deal for the American people. Don't even talk to these people until they reopen the government and make them do it for a year.
Yeah.
Minimum for 1 year. Susan Paige from USA Today will join us with her take on the news of the day coming up next on The Bill Press Show.
Like politics? Then like The Bill Press Show on Facebook. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
on your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
A little breaking news this morning. The United States Postal Service has confirmed that the latest news stamp will feature Harvey Milk.
Oh, wow.
The first openly gay man elected to public office in California. I forget the name of the movie about Harvey Milk.
It's just called Milk.
Milk.
Yeah, Milk.
Right. Yeah.
Sean Penn.
And I believe the first openly gay man at all to be featured on the U.S. postal stamp that announced yesterday by the Postal Service and the Harvey Milk Foundation. Well, so we had a whole series of meetings at the White House, and the House Republicans walked into the meeting yesterday with the president with a proposal on the table, not accepted but not rejected by the president either. Where do we go from here? Susan Paige has been following this from every angle. Washington bureau chief from the USA Today. Susan, I'm always glad to talk to you because we talk on Fridays, and I know the weekend's coming up.
So. Thank goodness.
We need a break now, don't we? I'm telling you.
Yes, although everything's changed. 24 hours, a totally different situation this morning from yesterday morning.
Well, it is. Yesterday morning was like no end in sight, and then suddenly, by midday, you say, in the time of our briefing, right? We've got at least a proposal on the table for what it's worth.
And you know what? I think we know where we're gonna end up. We just don't know exactly how we're going to get there. But I think it's the floodgates have opened. In effect, the Republicans have capitulated, and there's going to be a deal.
But have they capitulated? So if they say, let's look at it, right? They will raise the debt ceiling, but only for 6 weeks, right?
Yes.
No. And then they will leave the government shut down. If the president were to take the deal as offered.
Right. Well, obviously, you don't take the deal as offered. It's like buying a used car, right? There's some back and forth. But here's how they've capitulated. What are they not talking about? We demand changes in Obamacare before we'll move forward. That was the central tenet of this whole dispute, and that is now not even being discussed as part of
They're not even talking about that anymore.
That's right.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll talk about Obamacare, I'm sure, down the road, but to get out of this current impasse over funding the government and over raising the debt ceiling, Obamacare is not going to be the sticking point.
So what do you think a final deal is going to look like?
Well, it may be short-term, as you say, and I don't think we're going for some kind of permanent solution that will bring a new Eden to Washington. But it's likely to raise the debt ceiling in a clean way with no conditions. I think it's likely to reopen the government, probably at sequester level, so in a way that's a victory for Republicans, but that's something Democrats have already conceded.
But that's a very good point. I think that we have to understand Democrats did agree that they would vote for the clean CR, which is sequester level funding. So Republicans could have declared victory and accepted that a week ago, right?
Absolutely. And now what may happen is this proposal by Senator Collins to give the government a little more flexibility to shift funds around within the sequester levels. But clearly that is a victory for Republicans, which they have, for some reason, failed to recognize.
Now, what is happening? I know the Senate is coming up with a little longer term raising of the debt. Still not long term, but maybe 6 months rather than 6 weeks. Is that where they're heading?
What kind of government do we have where if you raise the debt ceiling to the end of the year, it seems like a long-term fix?
I know, crazy.
And you know what we lose sight of? We're now been consumed this fall with funding the government at sequester levels and raising the debt ceiling, and done nothing about immigration, climate change, fixes in the Affordable Care Act, real deficit reduction, a real debt deal. A real deficit budget deal. All that has been thrown oversight in the interest of just trying to get through the next 24 hours.
I'm sure you've seen. You may have. I don't know whether you've done. Well, on this point, I was very interested in the comments that you heard from the head of the World Bank, because there are a lot of they're calling them the debt ceiling deniers, right, in Congress now. Richard Burris and Rand Paul and. What's his Ted Yoho from Florida? But the head of the World Bank says this could be bad news, right?
Well, I interviewed the head of the World Bank, Jim Yong Kim, who is a former president of Dartmouth, a guy who grew up in Muscatine, Iowa. He says that there's already an effect among developing nations, and that the even getting close to not raising the debt ceiling creates all these financial problems for the poorest nations and the poorest people around the globe. And he noted it also doesn't do much for the U.S. reputation with leaders around the world either.
So that this idea that it won't make any difference, right, or won't have any impact on the global economy, he denies that.
Right, and he notes that in 2011, when we got right up to the edge of default and then did not, that had a significant economic effect on the developing world, and it persisted for months after the debt ceiling was in fact raised then.
Right. So today the president meets with the Senate Republicans. If he could make a deal with them, that would even come close, right? That'd put a lot more pressure on the House to change, to accept something better, I guess.
Yes, and it's interesting because we saw the Senate Republicans really step back during this crisis because I think they thought there was nothing useful to be done.
Right.
But now they're going to meet with the president. Mitch McConnell has been the closer in the previous fiscal deals that President Obama has reached. Maybe he will do that again, although it'll be interesting to see whether his role has changed now that he's facing this re-election fight, including a primary challenge in Kentucky. But we've seen Mitch McConnell be the closer in the past. Maybe he'll be that this time, too.
And finally, I'm sure you saw the Wall Street Journal poll where Republicans now 24% favorable opinion.
Why do you think they caved?
Exactly. I was going to say maybe that's why some cooler heads are prevailing, right, Susan?
Absolutely.
All right. Oh, so great to share a Friday morning with you. Thank you so much again, as always.
Hey, thank you, Bill.
You're great. Thanks. Susan Paige, Bureau Chief for USA Today here in Washington at usatoday.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
Eye cursor in between the R and the E. Racing dot. I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, here we go. In the next hour, Neil King from the Wall Street Journal will be here as a friend of Bill. We'll be joined by roll call congressional reporter Meredith Shiner. Peter, before we move along.
Here in Washington, D.C., we're having a string of crap weather, but in Columbus, Georgia, the weather is very nice. It's so nice, in fact, that the headmaster of the Calvary Christian School says he is canceling classes today because the weather is too damn nice. He said he's been the headmaster for many years. He's had to cancel classes several times for inclement weather. And now that they finally have good weather, he's going to cancel it so kids can stay home.
That's awesome.
I used to love, it rarely ever happened.
I always wanted a principal like that.
Right?
Yeah.
How great is that?
It's a nice day. It's too damn nice to be inside in a classroom.
And play.
Let's just all go out and romp, right? Yeah.
Winner of the day.
I support this idea.
So you only go to school on bad days.
Yeah, man. I'm on board.
I like it. That's one of the things that's upside down about education today. All right, here we go. 1 hour down, 2 more hours coming up here for the Bill Press Show. And lots to talk about.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hey, here we go. It's the day we've all been waiting for. It's Friday, October 11. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Bill Press Show this fine, that's a rainy Friday morning here in our nation's capital, but we won't let it interfere with our business of the day, which, as always, is to look around here in Washington, D.C., look around the country, look around the globe, and tell you what's going on, and most importantly, get your comments. Remember, it's a two-way street here. You can join the conversation anytime at 866-55-PRESS. Give us your comments on Twitter @BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Today, President Obama will continue the series of meetings he's been having down at the White House with members of both parties from the United States Congress. 2 days ago, he met with all the House Democrats. Yesterday, he met with all the Senate Democrats and about 18 or 20 House Republicans. Today, he will meet with Senate Republicans. There is now an offer on the table, an offer that came from John Boehner, which says we will lift the debt ceiling, but only for 6 weeks, and we will leave the government shut down. President Obama has not yet either accepted or rejected that offer, but he ought to reject it. He ought to throw it out the window fast. It's a bad deal. Why raise the debt ceiling for only 6 weeks? We really want to be back in this in November. And why continue to let people suffer because of this government shutdown while the Republicans demand an end to Obamacare? Bad deal. Meanwhile, in other news, Edward Snowden has resurfaced in Moscow with a visit from some American whistleblowers, and the former mayor of Detroit sentenced to 28 years in prison. All that and more right here on the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is day 11 now of the government shutdown. Is it almost over? Stirrings of a deal here in Washington, D.C. Good or bad? That's what we're talking about. Good morning, everybody. Great to see you. On a Friday morning, especially good to see you on Fridays. We love Fridays around here. It's Friday, October the 11th. Coming to you live from our nation's capital where all the buzz is. Are we at the beginning of the end? Do we see light at the end of the tunnel or whatever tired old metaphor analogy you want to use? We can't get through it all ourselves, as you know. We need your help, so we look forward to hearing from you whether or not this deal that John Boehner has put on the table is one the president should accept or reject. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. And to help us through the thicket this morning, Neil King, senior political correspondent for the Wall Street Journal, here as a friend of Bill this hour. Hello, Neil.
Good morning, Bill.
Always good to have you here. Thank you. Friend and neighbor.
Both indeed.
Both indeed. With our team here, Peter Ogburn and Dan Henning.
We need to be a little bit delicate with Peter. I don't know. He's been tweeting on the job. It says, I deserve an award for coming into work with this hangover.
I'm a little hungover today.
You know, I mean, that was right in front. I mean, do you not read his tweets?
He doesn't read my tweets.
Wait a minute. I'm doing the show.
Sharpshooter.
I'm doing the show here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought that was public domain. I didn't
know. It's totally public domain.
It's public domain, but I mean, I've got a job to do here.
Yeah,
I stand by that.
I got my cell phone here, but I can't be on it. All right.
I stand by it.
You know,
There's
usually,
no hiding it.
I mean, Friday morning, usually people kind of, celebrate on Friday nights.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, this is a little, all right.
Guilty.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry,
Alicia Cruz has got the phones covered, and I hope she's sober. And
let's hope Peter doesn't have a shutdown.
I'm good. I'm totally fine. Hey, I'm here.
I was wondering, there was something rocky about the first hour.
Do you have?
Yeah, Bill. It wasn't your fault
Bill,
at all.
Yeah, it was all me.
Where's the award?
Yeah, please. Come on.
Maybe that yogurt. Maybe the yogurt will do the trick.
No, that's my yogurt, baby. He's not getting my yogurt. Cyprian Balding, let's not forget Cyprian, who's he's got a hangover every morning.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, what's in that cup, Cyprian?
He celebrates every night.
There he goes.
So, Neil, I want to say, live television, nothing like it. And I want to give you a fine example of live television, particularly local live television. You can't get away with this at the network level. But up in Hartford, Connecticut, WFSB. So the anchors are sitting there. They've got a little time to kill. And this one male anchor is eating. He's got grape nuts as a snack, and some of the grape nuts falls on the floor. I'm just setting it up. And so what does he do? He just reaches down and picks up the grape nuts and starts eating off the floor.
Look, you leave grape nuts all over here.
What is happening?
Come on.
It's everywhere.
Clean up.
There. Let's go to the roads,
I
please.
can't believe you just ate that.
You can't? I believe it. They're a little soggy.
It is elephant that you are crazy.
They taste like shoes.
Oh.
I smell feet.
I smell feet.
Even picking up.
You are crazy. You just ate that right off the floor.
Oh, I don't think
boy.
I don't think those are
that was a great
nuts.
That is beyond the 3-second rule. Way beyond.
Okay. All right. But then he discovers what he's really been eating off the floor, and it ain't grape nuts.
This is what's trending now.
He's back on the air.
Ladies and gentlemen, those were not grape nuts that I ate.
Ugh.
I kept finding more and more of it on the floor, and I thought it was grape nuts because it looked just like it. My cat threw up, and I must have stepped in it, and that's what I ate.
Disgusting.
I thought it was grape nuts. I ate cat vomit right here on television. Yeah. It's disgusting.
I thought it was
going to
be kitty litter.
Of my shoe. And I thought it was grape nuts, and it's cat vomit. I'm going to throw up.
God, what a clown! But I mean,
can hardly even. I can't even listen to that right now.
Well, we understand.
Also, was his cat in the studio? I mean, this guy came from
He walked
home.
all the way up from work with cat vomit on his shoes?
He's come from home. He's got cat vomit on, and he's eating, and he doesn't realize he's eating. Oh, God, it's so gross.
Oh, look what I just found. I found breakfast over here. You guys do your thing. I'm going to grab something to eat off the floor here.
Yeah, right, exactly.
We got some serious things to talk about.
We do.
Here,
Let's get to him. Neil King here as a friend of Bill this entire hour. We're going to be joined by Meredith Shiner at the half hour, and then Senator Sherrod Brown from Ohio talk about his meeting with the other Senate Democrats and the president yesterday at the White House. Let's get right into it, Neil. But first,
this is the full court headlines.
Other headlines making news on this Friday. The Detroit Tigers made it to the American League Championship Series for the third year in a row. Pitcher Justin Verlander led the team to a 3-0 victory over the Oakland Athletics in the ALDS Game 5 last night, pitching 8 innings, striking out 10, gave up just 2 hits. It's sort of a repeat of last year. He He was also the Game 5 pitcher then that got the team into the ALCS. They now face Boston for a World Series spot in a best-of-7 series that begins tomorrow. In the National League, it's Los Angeles and St. Louis starting tonight.
It's good baseball.
I do love baseball playoffs.
Yeah, I was out actually in Detroit for Game 4, and somebody invited me to the game, and it was just incredible.
No kidding, you were?
That was a wild game.
Yeah, it was an incredible
wild
game.
At Detroit. I mean, everything is wrong with Detroit except the Tigers.
You know, you're downtown in Detroit. Downtown Detroit is fascinating. It has so much potential. It's all the rest of it. It's the challenge.
I know. Yeah.
But it's I met a guy at the game who's spending all his time tearing houses down in Detroit. That's what his livelihood is, and there are thousands of them to be torn down.
Replaced with
nothing. They just. It's all about creating open space instead of, a decrepit house for bad things to happen.
I think they should just put the Tigers in charge of running the city of Detroit. Just have them run it.
Cabrera could do that.
Yeah,
he could do it.
Oh yeah.
Even the Ohio clock has been furloughed. The famous clock that sits on the Senate side of the U.S. Capitol fell victim to the shutdown at 12:14 Wednesday afternoon. Roll Call reports it's the office of the Senate curator that is in charge of winding that clock every week. Everyone in that office is on furlough. Also, no one is able to find out the last time the clock stopped ticking, since it made news this week when it did, because the Senate historian's office is also furloughed.
God.
You know that guy who came and was mowing the lawn in front of them? We need him to go in and wind the clock.
Yep. And the take a penny, leave a penny system that most stores have? Well, a Starbucks coffee shop near the U.S. Capitol is expanding on that concept to help out furloughed government workers. They've set up a big basket full of cash with a sign telling people to take money if they need it or leave some if they have a job and they have extra. CNBC reports several customers have tweeted photos of as many as $5, $10, even $20 bills sitting in that cash basket.
Starbucks is doing everything they can to exploit this shutdown.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Maybe they shouldn't be in Starbucks. If they don't have
right.
money.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Neil, let's start with the latest in terms of, before we talk about the deal, proposed deal itself. There is your latest poll may have had something to do with the fact that suddenly there's a proposal on the table, and that is the latest NBC Wall Street Journal poll. Not good news for Republicans, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a chicken and egg kind of thing. Are they moving in part because they've seen the numbers moving, or are the numbers moving, helping them move? But this is one of those polls. We have pollsters that have been doing this for decades. Peter Hart, Bill McInturf. I mean, they're renowned pollsters in these parts.
The best in the business.
Yeah, one a Republican, one a Democrat. And, they said we've basically never seen data that has moved in this abruptly, this dramatically. And, our poll goes back to 1989. The Republican standing, basically the approval rating, fell to its lowest level in the history of Wall Street Journal polling, 24% approve, 53%, so a solid majority disapprove. And even look at a fifth of Republicans disapprove of the Republican Party. The numbers we were looking, it's the Republican image is underwater, the negative that is, by 27 points even in Republican-held congressional districts.
Whoa.
The underwater, like Boehner hit his highest negative ratings since we've been asking about him, which has been about for the last 5 years. The interesting thing, you look at somebody like Ted Cruz, who was very little known when we first asked about him in May.
Yeah.
I think only like 45% of the people had much of an idea who he was. All that he has gained since then in terms of public knowledge of his existence has basically gone to the negative side of the ledger. So he's now 14 points underwater. I think he has something like 20% of the people hold very negative views of him. So it hasn't been a great little while now for and when it just comes to the blame thing, which of course is what is markedly different than what we saw in 95, 96 shutdown, and a lot of Republicans have looked and said we think we're faring better than Newt Gingrich and our gang did then. At this point, I think it was 31% blamed Obama for this shutdown, 53% blamed the Republicans. Again, it was way better for Obama than was the situation at that time for Clinton.
I was going to ask you, so in terms of 1995, the last shutdown, were Republicans their public image and their approval rating went down. This is even worse than 1995.
Yeah, I think we asked 3 times during that, couple of month long, actually 2.5 month long, where it went back and forth with the shutdown. I think the Republicans were never blamed by a majority. It was always like 46, 47%. And Clinton, the blame that went to Clinton was always around a third. So in this case, it's a little bit lower for Obama and a fair bit higher for the Republicans.
So do you think this is what drove Republicans to say we got to put something on the table?
Well, I mean, there's obviously been this huge clash within the party that's ongoing the portion, so to speak, of the party that went to the White House yesterday is the part that has been kind of aghast in a lot of ways by the tactics that have been used earlier in the month, or just how they got into the shutdown in the first place, and are kind of, I think, sort of went begging to be released from this and figuring out some way that it can be done without them incurring a lot of wrath from the other part of their party.
All right, so I've been at the White House every day since this whole thing started, and the message from the White House has been very clear, and I think, unusually clear messaging for this White House, which I don't think has always done a good job of its messaging, which is this. We have to reopen the government, and we'll talk about anything, but you have to reopen the government first, and we have to raise the debt ceiling for at least an extended period of time. So here the proposal is, okay, from Boehner, we'll raise the debt ceiling for 6 weeks only, but we'll leave the government shut down. Why should President Obama even consider that proposal?
Yeah, I mean,
or do you think he will?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of doubt that he will. I mean, they've been trying to put forward a clean debt ceiling agreement that in itself had conditions. I mean, the first one they put forward would have restrained the Treasury Department on what it could do if, in future instances, if somebody had gone beyond the debt ceiling. I don't know. I mean, I kind of doubt that they will. There obviously will be a backlash from within the Democratic Party in the House and probably even in the Senate. I mean, he's sitting down with Senate leaders today, right? I mean, we'll see what comes out of that.
Republican Senate leaders.
Senate leaders, yeah. And, it may be that what they can hatch will be something that they'll move forward with that will then put added pressure on the House to come to some other... I do think if they were to come forward with this, which is what the White House has been asking for all along, just get all this stuff out of the way and then let's sit down.
Yeah.
That would be a difficult pill to swallow because it would basically be the Republicans giving up all the leverage, at least that right now that they hold, and it would be a cave-in, right?
Well, now you write for the Wall Street Journal, for the news side, for the political side, not for the financial side, but I mean, you have a lot of exposure to these guys. Does it help the business community to lift the debt ceiling for only 6 weeks, knowing that come November, come Thanksgiving, right, we're going to be back in this soup? I mean, that doesn't provide the certainty that they need, does it?
Not necessarily. I mean, there's, of course, deep and deepening anger on the business community side about just where the Republican Party at the moment is heading. And you can sort of see the beginnings of what could become like a fairly significant rift going into next year, which we could talk about further. But just on the certainty side, it's fascinating. I mean, the market so far has basically discounted any possibility of a great, disruption. The surge in the market yesterday, which was one of the highest of the year, I think it was the biggest day of the market of the year, basically erased all of the losses that had been incurred throughout the month. I mean, it broke even at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So to that extent, we're kind of back to square one when it comes to unease within the market. Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is that even what might become a deal and was enough of a deal to jazz the market yesterday is basically just giving a tiny reprieve until we begin this all over again late next month.
Yeah.
That's what obviously Obama in particular wants to get out of, is just this perpetual cycle of, crisis every 4 or 5 months, which is what we've been on, basically.
Which I think is important, not just for President Obama, but for any president who's in the White House. I mean, you can't get anything. Look at all the stuff that's not getting done, not even getting talked about right now, because we're in a fiscal crisis every 3 weeks or every 6 weeks or whatever it is. We are just getting started here with Neil King on the Bill Press Show this Friday morning. Neil King, national political reporter for the Wall Street Journal. Join the conversation. And the main question we've been asking all morning long, you know what Boehner's proposal is? Lift debt ceiling for 6 weeks, only keep the government shut down. Take it or reject it. 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
Follow us on Twitter at BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour, here we go with the Bill Press Show this Friday morning. Neil King is here as a friend of Bill, national political reporter for the Wall Street Journal. Your calls again, welcome at 866-55-PRESS. Peter?
We're on Twitter at BP Show, if you want to join the conversation there. Stephanie says on the deal that the Republicans are offering, if there's a light at the end of the tunnel, It's probably a train if it's coming from John Boehner. Fit to be teed, Rob Teed on Twitter says, don't be fooled. The GOP will need Democrats to pass the debt ceiling bill, so it will by default get better in terms of this deal. So you can find us there at BP Show on Twitter. Join in.
Neil, there is a question, and some Republicans in Congress are saying, well, what is the big deal with the debt ceiling anyhow? I mean, we can. So if we don't have enough money to pay all of our bills, we'll have enough money to pay our bondholders and some of our bills. They're calling them the debt ceiling deniers.
It's funny. We asked about that in our poll. We said, do you see the crossing over the debt ceiling without having raised it?
Yeah.
A real and serious problem. So those debt deniers are in a marked minority because 63% of the people in the poll said they saw it as a real and serious problem. And I think it was 15% thought it was not a problem. So I guess a lot of the people who are making this argument are in the kind of 15% of the population. I mean, the thing about that is we don't actually know, right? It's total terra incognita in terms
because
of
we've never done it.
Yeah, and the unease that they might be partly right in that mathematically the revenues coming in would cover this or that thing. But the whole point is, does reverting to that sort of system spook the very people who hold those bonds, who are going to have trust and faith in the U.S. government going forward, or do they suddenly say, you know what? I think this risk is a little high. I think we need to charge 1 percentage point more for these, for them to borrow this money, which in itself would raise interest rates on mortgages, would be a total shock, and would cost us infinitely more just to service our own debt, right? I mean, it only takes small things.
My column on this very issue of Republican debt ceiling deniers is up on our website at BillPressShow.com. I don't trust the veterinarian from Florida who says that it's no big deal. I think they're wiser voices to listen to. We'll be back. Meredith Shiner joins us next from Roll Call.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot. I want you to just push the area.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right,
I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay, so who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
We had a very useful meeting. It was clarifying, I think, for both sides as to where we are. And the takeaway from the meeting was our teams are going to be talking further tonight. We'll have more discussion. We'll come back to have more discussion. The president said that he would go and consult with the administration folks, and hopefully we can see a way forward after that.
This is the Bill Press Show.
And that, of course, was Eric Cantor yesterday, coming out of the West Wing of the White House after the president met with 18 to 20 or so leading House Republicans, with Eric Cantor's take on the meeting. And apparently some of the White House staff and the Congressional House Republican caucus staff worked through the night to see if they could actually come up with a deal both sides could accept. Where are we now at this hour of the morning, 34 minutes after the hour? Let's find out. Neil King is with us as a friend to Bill this entire hour from the Wall Street Journal. We're now joined by Meredith Shiner, keeps her finger on the pulse of Congress for roll call, congressional correspondent. Hi, Meredith.
It's
nice to see
hard
you.
to find these days, but I appreciate the compliment.
Of what?
The pulse? Yes.
Oh, yeah, right. I don't know that there is any pulse. That's very good. Well, so what do you hear? What is this morning? Do we know? Did they make any progress overnight?
I don't think that there is any word yet of a major breakthrough. I think particularly now, because you have so many frustrated lawmakers, I think the most significant thing about yesterday wasn't necessarily the spin coming out of this meeting, but this growing group of Senate Republicans that is just astounded by this idea that the House Republicans could move forward on a temporary debt limit bill without reopening the government. I talked to handfuls of Senate Republicans yesterday of all walks. I mean, Bob Corker, John Cornyn, who's number 2 in leadership, Kelly Ayotte, Susan Collins, John McCain. All of these people are like, we have to reopen the government. You can't solve part of the problem without the other. Like, the longer the government is shut down, the more these effects will be and the worse it is for us politically. Jeff Flake, I think, said there's no point for us from a policy or political perspective at this point to keep the government shut down. So whether or not you believe Senate Republicans actually have any influence over House Republicans, that's for, I don't know who can decide that. But I think that it is sort of notable that you do have this group of Republicans being fed up, because I think for, I guess, 11 or 12 days now, the whole thought process was, at least on the Republican side, that the Senate would wait for the House to act to see what the House is able to do. And now you have people getting antsy, being like, we could be waiting forever for them to decide what they want to do.
So, Neil, that's significant, because the last meeting of these group meetings that the president is holding is today with Senate Republicans. Yeah. So this could be the deciding meeting.
It could be. You know, it's fascinating. I did a story a couple of weeks ago that was comparing this shutdown and its dynamics to the previous one. And I mentioned sort of how the previous one ended, which was basically Bob Dole going out on the floor of the Senate, and in that classic Bob Dole way he had. And you watch the clip on C-SPAN and you go, wow, we don't have anyone like that anymore. And he just, in that kind of laconic Kansas way, just said, enough is enough. And it was like, this whole thing is stupid. I've never understood it anyway. We need to just, and they reopened the government, not even having a deal, but basically the same sort of thing we're looking at now, with an agreement to talk with Bill Clinton about a bigger deal. And he kind of broke the logjam. Of course, the Senate is a very different Senate now.
I mean, to put that in context, Bob Dole came to the Senate this year to ask his Republicans to pass a disabilities treaty and couldn't get enough Republicans.
Yeah, I'm not saying Bob Dole has sway. I'm just saying at that time.
I was just in terms of a reference point of how much the Senate has changed.
Well, the fascinating thing, not to do too much history, but that was January of 1996. He was to become the party's nominee, 6-7 months later. And he was the one who stood up to what was, I guess you could call kind of the equivalent of the Tea Party then, which was the Gingrich House Republicans, and just said, this is ridiculous. Imagine somebody trying to do that now in that sort of fashion, and having also clout within the party.
And I wanted to note that Chris Matthews has an op-ed piece in the Washington Post today about where's the headline or something. Where's the Bob Dole of today?
That headline didn't have Tip O'Neill in it?
No. But that he's making the point. Some grown-up Republican has to take charge of this process, and maybe it's Mitch McConnell. Who knows? But
except he's a little boxed
in. Let's come back to the proposal. Mm-hmm. Neil and I were talking about Meredith in the last half hour. So the proposal John Boehner's put on the table, which I think is a bad deal as in its present form, is we'll lift the debt ceiling, but for 6 weeks only, and we'll leave the government shut down. And Boehner says, hey, Dan, we've got that the John Boehner bite there where he said yesterday we've come halfway, right? Just for our viewers and our listeners to hear.
A temporary increase in the debt ceiling, an agreement to go to conference on the budget, for his willingness to sit down and discuss with us a way forward to reopen the government and to start to deal with America's pressing problems.
So that's their deal. It sounds to me like what you're both saying is President Obama will not take the deal in its present form.
The White House has indicated that they would, but I honestly believe that if the White House forced congressional Democrats to accept a 6-week debt limit deal without a CR at this point, the Democrats might burn down the White House because they would be so mad, because this would be very much par for the course for this White House, which is congressional Democrats feel like they have one strategy because they're putting pressure on congressional Republicans, and then the White House is so averse to passing deadlines or to seeming like they can't make a deal that they constantly make a deal, whether it was the Budget Control Act, which has given sequestration, which Democrats hate, whether it was the fiscal cliff deal, where basically Republicans were backed against the wall. Republicans couldn't go home for New Year's and say, we are the party that's against raising taxes. Sorry, all your taxes went up, right? And Joe Biden and Mitch McConnell struck a deal to basically work out the entire tax portion, which was, again, the only pressure point. And they thought they'd be able to renegotiate sequestration, which they couldn't. So I think you're seeing congressional Democrats banding together and having more leverage in this because they're mad, and they're still mad about what's happened before. And to do a 6-week debt limit, what does that get you? That gets you this fight over Thanksgiving, which, I mean, I selfishly don't want. But I don't understand from a policy or political perspective how the Democrats could accept
Neil,
that.
I don't see how the president can take the deal leaving the government shut down.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume that Harry Reid will be the disciplinarian here, right? And we'll try to push to hold the line, considering that that's what he's been doing for the most part throughout all of this. It's funny, you listen to the tone, like the Eric Cantor thing that he was saying, or Boehner, and you just hear, I mean, it was funny because Cantor yesterday had that rather extraordinary op-ed piece in the Post that was just like, savaging Obama for his alleged unwillingness to negotiate throughout all of time, going back to basically the start of his administration. And then there's this sort of beseeching tone from the Republicans in their trip to the White House, like, please help us get out of this jam that we're in. In a poker sense, it's obvious who has the better cards, and I don't see the White House necessarily feeling like it needs to be the first to flinch.
No, I agree. Particularly now, buttress that with the poll that you just took. I mean, I think that that the public sees what's happening. The public at this time blames the Republicans certainly more than the president. Not that the president's without blame. and they sort of agree. So I think Obama's in the driver's seat here.
So, and I think that Democrats have learned some lessons. I remember back in March when sequestration finally took effect, every time one piece of sequestration became a talking point for real Americans or upsetting for real Americans, the shrinking of the number of TSA agents and the long lines at the airports, the administration took steps to sort of carve out exemptions, whether it was for, again, meat inspectors or security at the airport. When you saw House Republicans move forward with these piecemeal spending bills, Democrats were like, absolutely not, we won't take this, even though they were passing bills that were politically targeted towards areas where the American public were like, this is ridiculous that these things aren't operational.
Yeah. Do you think the piece that I was going to ask you about that piecemeal approach? It was funny because, okay, we're going to reopen the World War II Memorial, but not the Vietnam Memorial. I mean, how do you pick and choose? I mean, the piecemeal.
I'm wondering about like NIH.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been. I think one of the more awkward things has been the fact that the D.C. city, the city that we're in right now, just because of its weird history and status, is basically being held hostage by this federal debt impasse. And I loved when Vincent Gray, the mayor, actually went up and confronted Harry Reid on the steps of the Capitol, and Harry Reid was just sort of like, "Come on, dude, don't blow this. We're on our side, but don't." But it's basically just free this city so it can spend its own money. And it's been awkward, once you go down that road of piecemeal thing. Why don't you should? I mean, obviously the city should be just given the pass to spend its own money, but. And the Democrats have been in the more difficult position because the Republicans put these things forward where it's like, of course we need to fund that thing.
Yeah, you mentioned NIH. But so you fund they pass a bill to fund NIH. Well, what about the CDC? Right there, all the important work that they're doing. How do you pick and choose? You just can't do it. So I think he's going to have to hold. But I was telling you, the briefing yesterday, Jay Carney drove us crazy because he wouldn't say
yesterday.
No, not just yesterday. But he wouldn't say yes or no. But he said, we'd rather have a long-term debt deal, but we'll take a short-term. And we'd rather have the debt ceiling lifted and government reopened.
Just negotiate with yourself
both,
in front of the media.
But he said we would take either one or the other. I think he might have stepped over the line on that, not necessarily following the party line or the administration's line. We'll continue our conversation. Join the conversation and your vote. You get to vote on the proposal as is on the table. Vote yes or no, accept or reject. We're here with Meredith Shiner and Neil King and all of you on the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Racing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, 13 minutes now before the hour. Friday morning, October 11. At the top of the next hour, Senator Sherrod Brown. He was there among with other Senate Democrats meeting with the president yesterday in the state dining rooms. Senator Sherrod Brown joining us at the top of the next hour from Ohio. In studio with us, congressional correspondent for Roll Call, Meredith Shiner, and national political correspondent for Wall Street Journal. Here's a friend of Bill, Neil King. Neil, I'll start with you in the sense that, and get both your takes on this, there's something suddenly missing from all the talk about the government shutdown and how to resolve it, and that is the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. I thought the shutdown was all about Obamacare. I didn't see that mentioned in the John Boehner proposal yesterday.
Well, I mean, it's been a huge back off of that. I mean, there's such anger among certain ranks of the Republican Party about having gone down that road in the first place.
You mean Ted Cruz leading down that road?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Journal edit page, they've been going after him all the time. I mean, it's fascinating because in our poll, in our Republican pollster, Bill McInturff, described it as an ideological boomerang where they threw out one thing hoping it would move public opinion in one direction and it comes right back in their face. And that is that in our poll, Obamacare is now slightly more popular, and that's gone up. The opposition to using it as a leverage point in the budget debate is significantly higher. And in both those cases, it's they've not only have they taken the attention away, whatever the faults or things that, in the rollout of the exchanges, it hasn't been perfect, but relatively little attention has been paid to that while all the attention is on the Republican-led budget fight. So they've taken away whatever they might have had there. Yeah. I mean, if they hadn't used it as a budget tactic, they might actually be able to make a plausible case like, why don't we just push in a different way for this whole delay thing that others are pushing for. But in the end, it's gone the opposite direction of what they'd hoped, and it's fallen totally off the table as a actual discussion.
Yeah, Meredith, so the proposal, and John Boehner said, we'll lift the debt ceiling, but only for 6 weeks. We'll leave the government shut down while we start negotiating on some of these budget deals, but there was no mention of while we or until you do anything with Obamacare. They just stopped talking about it.
So 3 quick points. One, I hate to cite what anyone says on Twitter because I feel like it emboldens people to tweet more. But as someone who tweets a lot, I probably shouldn't say that. But a former Bush administration official said this last night, and I thought this was kind of clever. Like, Democrats and the White House have tried to make Obamacare popular for 4 years. Ted Cruz did it in 4 weeks. So I thought that was quite pithy.
I like that.
Secondly,
thank you, Ted Cruz.
To Neil's point, the president had one of the longest press conferences he's ever had. He took more questions from print reporters than I think maybe his entire administration combined, and not a single question was about this botched healthcare rollout, because this shutdown and this threat of default is so serious that it overshadowed what I think could have been a good media day, or at least touchstone for Republicans in criticizing the administration for doing this and having to force the president to answer those questions. And thirdly, I just
want to point out that my question was that which I didn't get to ask because I wasn't called on. But if I had asked a question, I had it written down if I had been able to get a question in, it was, how pissed off were you that your major program launches and HHS blows it because the website crashes? But nobody asked it. You're right.
And I think the third point and the most interesting thing to watch about this is that Ted Cruz would go on conservative radio or talk to conservative outlets, and he made it seem like it was this actual, like, achievable political reality that Republicans could just repeal Obamacare yesterday. And the truth of the matter is that was a major shift from what is political reality and what Republicans would have been saying. Like, if you focused on putting a president in the White House in 2016 or winning back the Senate majority in 2014, those are things that make that political goal more achievable. But right now, it's not an achievable goal, and there are people who believe it because they were hearing it from Ted Cruz, who are then calling their senators and their elected officials.
I talked to a couple of, I guess it was a week or so ago, with Pete Boehner, who was a long time in Bush's White House and is no fan of what's been going on. And he made a really interesting point when it came to that, which was that the convincing that Ted Cruz and others have done of a whole flank of the electorate, the conservative electorate out there, that this really was an achievable goal, is like maybe in the end one of the worst things for the party going forward, because there are going to be all these people who were led down this path of, we're going to defund Obamacare, and then in the end it all falls away and not talked about, and they're like, what? And it just like steeps this sort of sense of disenchantment and all of the fissures that are already within the party, where these people are like, the rest of the party is rhinos. I've got to join the Tea Party group. I've got to fight whatever incumbent candidate is running in for whatever Republican office. It's not great for the party, and that's one of the reasons that people are blaming Cruz for having started this conflict.
All right, final comment. We have about a minute left. So in our business, this is an interesting time because things are happening so fast. Yesterday morning,
or so slow, depending on how you look at it.
But in the last 24 hours, things changed, I think, pretty dramatically. Yesterday morning, none of us would have predicted that we'd be talking today about a possible deal and the reaction to a deal. Where are we going to be Monday morning?
Prediction. I think we'll come out of there. I don't know if it'll be by then, but I bet you it will. With somehow or other, the Republicans will have docked, and we'll get something that will extend this for a while. That will be both government reopening within.
So we'll have some kind of agreed upon deal. Do you think by?
Yeah, but it will be deja vu all back to the whole thing a few weeks down the road. But
what do you think, Meredith? Monday morning?
I don't think it'll be by Monday morning, but I think it has to be sometime next week. I think there are too many angry people on Wall Street calling Republicans, being like, why are you flirting with default again?
Yeah. All the debt ceiling deniers are being dumped on by the leaders of Wall Street. Meredith Shiner and Neil King, what a great team. Thank you guys for coming in today.
Thanks for
being
having
here.
us.
All right, I'll be back and tell you what the president's got on tap today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, nearing the end of the second hour here and looking forward to our third hour, a great third hour coming up. Too bad you won't be able to see it on Free Speech TV, but you can continue to watch on the video stream, which is TawkrTV. You find us at youtube.com/TawkrTV. We'll be talking to the great senator from Ohio, Senator Sherrod Brown, about a way out of the shutdown mess. And then Derek Thompson from The Atlantic will be here to tell us how the market can be expected to react if we don't raise the debt ceiling.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look, your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
Senator Sherrod Brown from Ohio at the top of the next hour, and then Derek Thompson from The Atlantic, senior editor. Great big hour coming up next, and President Obama continues his round of meetings at the White House on the debt ceiling and the government shutdown. Very important meeting, key, as we were just talking about with our guests, with the Senate Republican caucus, the entire Senate Republican caucus meeting with the president in the Senate State Dining Room at 11:15 this morning. That's right after he gets the daily briefing with the vice president. And then this afternoon, the president will be meeting with small business owners and get their take on what's got to be done about the debt ceiling in the Roosevelt Room. That's at 2:15. In between the two at 1 o'clock, Jay Carney will be meeting with us reporters for today's press briefing. Back with Senator
This is the
Brown.
Bill Press Show. Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
11 days now into the shutdown, but there is a deal on the table. Does that mean we could be nearing the end of this mess? All kinds of questions in the air today, waiting to see what comes from the work done overnight by staff of the White House and staff of the House Republican Caucus to see if they can come up with a deal both sides can accept. Good morning, everybody. We're trying to keep on top of it here on a Friday, October 11. Coming to you live on your local progressive talk radio station. Hello, hello, hello. Good to have you with us where you happen to be in this great land of ours. And also this hour, you can video stream the show. You can video stream every hour of the show. But this hour particularly on TawkrTV. So it's youtube.com/TawkrTV. Good to see you this Friday morning. It's a rainy morning here in Washington, D.C. We're keeping our eye on the events here in Washington, of course. Big meetings at the White House, big meetings on the Hill. and keeping our eye on what's happening. Also, everything else that's going on around the country and around the globe. We'll tell you what's going on and ask you to tell us what you think about it all by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS, sending us your comments on Twitter at BP Show, and on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. The team here, Peter Ogburn and Dan Henning. Good morning, good morning.
Hey. Good morning.
Alicia Cruz has the phones covered. Cyprian Bolding keeping us looking good on the video cam on TawkrTV. So, proud of our, CNN bringing back Crossfire. I had 6 good years on Crossfire. Last night, Van Jones on the left, sitting in my seat, taking the guest was Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz, I think, was on earlier. I think this is his second appearance on Crossfire, but certainly it's only been up 2 or 3 weeks.
He might have been their first guest.
I think he was
on opening night.
Yeah, I think he was, as I recall. But at any rate, the last night. Since then, of course, he has taken the Republican Party over the cliff by making them believe that if they just shut down the government, they could get rid of Obamacare forever. And, of course, everybody else, all the other Republicans, with the exception of maybe one, Mike Lee from Utah, said, all the other Republicans in the Senate said, hey, Ted, we've been around here longer than you have. This is not going to work. Well, Ted Cruz says, no, I'm from Texas. I know more than you know. And so he was able to persuade the House Republicans with the job of Speaker Cruz, as they called him, that this is what they ought to do. They tried it. They failed. And Van Jones last night suggesting to Ted Cruz that maybe he owed the Republican Party an apology.
One thing that's incredibly unpopular right now is the Republican Party under your leadership. You came to this town within a year. You've become the most prominent Republican in this town, and we now have polling data that shows Republican Party less popular than it's ever been in the history of the party, which is shocking. I wonder if you now, and this is, we're all friends here, we can talk. Do you feel like you owe your party an apology? Listen, you had people who believed in you. They believed that you were going to somehow be able to defund Obamacare. They believed that this strategy of shutdown might have a chance. They followed you into a ditch, and now there's obviously no chance that Obamacare is going to be defunded, and we're on the brink of a horrific default. Do you think that in the reflection of your own heart, you might say, you know what, I'm a new kid here, I think I owe you guys an apology?
Van, I know you desperately want to change the topic from Obamacare, and it is striking. Hold on, let me answer your question.
From the default, the destruction of the world economy?
Van, let me answer answer your question.
I think Ted Cruz is the worst of that argument.
You know what's great about that, though? And the more that Ted Cruz talks, the more popular Obamacare is becoming.
Yeah. As Neil King just pointed out from the Wall Street Journal, the latest Wall Street Journal poll says the Affordable Care Act now more popular than ever.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ted Cruz.
Yes.
He has accomplished in 3 weeks what the Obama administration has not been able to accomplish in 3 years.
Ted Cruz and the GOP's rating is plummeting, while Obamacare's is rising.
All right. So we have a proposal, I would not call it a deal, on the table from Speaker Boehner. What is likely to happen? Yesterday, one of the big meetings at the White House with the Senate Democrats meeting with the president in the state dining room. There with his colleagues, Senator Sherrod Brown from Ohio, who joins us on our news line this morning. Hey, Senator, good to have you with us. Good morning.
Good to be with you. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it.
Tell us about that meeting with the president yesterday. Was there unanimity of message and strategy?
Yeah, there is. I mean, people understand the legacy issue here, not the president's personal legacy, but because that's not really our business particularly, or a concern for the country. But what people understand, the president explained, and we all understand, is that what happens if he were to defund or repeal any part of Obamacare because they threatened to shut down or because they threatened to default, then they do it again and again for this president and the next president. I mean, you simply can't allow a group of elected officials radical as they are, you simply can't allow them to say, well, we're going to shut the government down unless you do this for us. Because if you do it once, you do have to do it again, and the next time, and the next time. And the president stood strong here, and so Democrats are standing strong, and we know it's what's best for the country. And it's amazing still that this crowd is willing to go right up to the edge of default. And Jack Lew spoke to our committee yesterday, and it's just incredible what some of these people, some of these right wingers are saying.
So now the speaker put a proposal forth yesterday that says, all right, here's what we propose. We will raise the debt ceiling, but only for 6 weeks. But meanwhile, we'll keep the government shut down while we negotiate some other budget issues. Is that a deal, do you think? Is that a deal the president ought to take?
Of course it's not a deal, because we've got to open the government. We've got to open the government up. We've got to pay our bills. These are not future expenditures. These are paying the bills that the United States Congress, you know that, Bill, that they've run up. You simply... I mean, there's no option here about doing this, and Republicans are starting to feel the heat from a lot of people, a lot of business types, a lot of bankers, I've spent much of the last week just calling people in Ohio, mostly Republicans, mostly in business, a lot of financial services people. Just what do you think? And they're all beginning to be scared because they don't trust what Boehner and these radical right wingers could possibly do to the country.
What about, you mentioned the debt ceiling. There are voices in the Congress. Rand Paul, your House Senator, it's Burris, right? From Burr from North Carolina, who say, the debt ceiling is not such a big deal. We could we'll pay some of our bills, even if we can't pay all of our bills. The debt ceiling deniers, I guess they
the only people saying that are some right wing politicians and their parrots on talk radio and the media that will do whatever they say. I will repeat whatever they say. Nobody that really understands economics thinks. I mean, here's the way they want to play it out. And I heard a number of Republican senators in the Finance Committee yesterday parrot this and say it over and over again that if they call it prioritization, where you pay, and they were trying to push the Treasury Secretary to say, okay, if we get to this date, you will pay the bondholders first, right? Mm-hmm. And he would not commit to anything to them. And he said, don't put us in that position. Well, you're going to have to make that decision. You've got to plan for it. And he said, don't put us in that position. But what they want us to do is pay off China, pay off Wall Street. Mm-hmm. And then, it might mean Social Security checks are 2 days late this month, and maybe next month they'd be worth 5 days. I mean, to make these choices are horrible choices that then erode and undermine confidence overall. So Wall Street and the financial people around the country are still going to be exceptionally nervous, and that's going to affect the bond markets. It's going to affect interest rates. I mean, interest rates have already gone up 30 to 50 basis points in short-term treasuries. So the damage is already starting, let alone what happens when you do a shutdown for more than a few days, and engineers and scientists and medical researchers at great institutions like Case Western in Cleveland or Battelle or NASA Glenn or any of these facilities are starting to have to furlough these scientists and engineers, and some of them are going to leave. They're going to think, I'm not going to do this. Every time there's a debt ceiling, every time there's a continuing resolution, they're going to threaten to shut the government down. We're going to go through this uncertainty. And we can't afford this as a country. It is the absolute worst way to govern. That's why there's, a long answer to your first question, that's why there's unity in stopping them from trying to do this.
And there's talk, Senator, that your Republican colleagues in the Senate are coming up with a proposal to extend it for a longer period of time.
There's all kinds of thoughts and proposals out there. There are discussions to. We'd like it as long as we can get it, because we shouldn't be going through this. But the important point is, no matter how long the discussion is, we've got to deal with this issue of uncertainty. And the president has said repeatedly, they have to know that because they're making threats, it's not going to mean they're going to get anything more, any additional power at the bargaining table. So you get nothing more for making these threats. That has to be clear. because one of the things, and you and I have talked about this, Bill, that the Republicans have been saying for years is the reason the economy is not growing is there's all this uncertainty out there.
Of course.
Uncertainty. They talk about Obamacare. They talk about Dodd-Frank. They talk about all kinds of things, regulatory stuff. Well, this is the worst kind of the worst kind of uncertainty brought on so unnecessarily, and it clearly affects business investment. It can affect our credit rating again, as it did 2 years ago, and it means that the economic growth is going to stumble when you shut the government down for this long.
We're talking to Senator Sherrod Brown from Ohio here on the Bill Press Show this Friday morning. So, Senator, tell us what's happening with the Affordable Care Act as you see it, and particularly what's happening in Ohio. And it is interesting that in this latest proposal from Speaker Boehner, there was no mention of the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah, they don't. Well, first of all, I'm not at all happy with the beginning of. There are lots of people that have signed up. That's the good news. The bad news, or tried to sign up. The bad news is all the computer glitches, and they should have been better prepared for
Absolutely.
this. And I don't understand. I mean, I know it's complicated. I know it's big. I also know they knew the date that it was coming. And I have some friends that are signing up that report to me how difficult it's been for them individually. I mean, that's not a scientific survey, but we know their stories and the reports.
Mm-hmm.
The good news is people are signing up. The bad news is a lot of states like mine are refusing to expand Medicaid. I mean, you look at the governor of Kentucky, Steve Beshear, wrote an op-ed in the New York Times about 2 weeks ago about what he was doing. And January 1st, he's going to have 300,000 people in his state that will be in Medicaid that don't have insurance now. He's going to be the first or second state to have to set up the exchanges. Kentucky is on health care indices is one of the lowest ranked states in the country. This is a great thing for them, and it could be for Ohio too if the governor would get his act together and push the legislature to do it. There are some sign that they're going to do it in sort of a backdoor way now. We're trying to push that. I've been working with the hospital administrators. I've been probably talked to 20 of them in the last few days about expansion of Medicaid in Ohio. It's such a big deal. It's going to make so many people's lives better. So this is a great success already.
And finally, I don't know, we've been so busy with the shutdown and everything, we've had a chance to take a look at this. The first case that the Supreme Court heard in its new session, McCutcheon, you and I have talked a lot about Citizens United. This is right along the same lines, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just they're going to keep coming at the Supreme Court. They're going to every year or two. There's going to be another lawsuit on some other way to put more money in the political system. And I have no idea. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a particularly acute court watcher, but or analyst anyway. But the news reports about this don't seem all that hopeful of protecting these limits. And there's a lot of ways to put money in the political system, and they're making it easier and easier.
Yeah, it almost looks like John Roberts went out and said, "Bring another case in, so we can even do worse than Citizens United."
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, last year, as you know, and we talked about this in your show, they spent more against these outside groups spent more against me than anybody in the country, $40 million. That's just the outside money, and you can beat it, but it's increasingly hard when there's that much money coming through that many channels, and usually it's not even disclosed, as you know. And then it's no surprise you end up with a Congress that's this dysfunctional when you have that kind of money buying seats.
Yeah, $40 million wasn't enough, Senator. They want to spend even more the next time.
Right, that's right. Forget all of us.
All right, you've got your hands full, Senator Brown. We'll let you get back to the job. Thank you so much for taking time for us this morning.
I'm sitting in my office with my Bill Press, Yes We Can coffee mug right in front of me.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks. You're part of the team. All right. Sherrod Brown, Senator from Ohio.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is the Bill Press Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
It's 25 minutes after the hour on a Friday. And on a Friday, love to look back at our favorite sound bites of the week with you. Sunday Night Live, winners and losers of the shutdown. One of the big losers, the Affordable Care Act on the website.
5.
Loser, the Obamacare website, which had technical issues all week because of too much web traffic. You can't campaign on the fact that millions don't have health care and then be surprised that millions don't have health care. How could you not be ready? That's like 1-800-Flowers getting caught off guard by Valentine's Day.
Good point, good point. Megyn Kelly debuts on the new Fox News lineup. Her first guest is Texas Senator Ted Cruz.
Number 4.
Senator, good to see you. What's it like to be the most hated man in America?
Well, Megan, it's great to be with you, and let me start by just saying congratulations on your new show. Fox News is lucky to have you, and I am honored to have the chance to join you on your very first show.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, so what? Now answer the question.
Look, I think there have been more than a few Democrats who are throwing rocks my direction.
Okay, yeah, answer the question, dude. Enough suck it up.
Why do people hate you?
Same-sex marriage getting widespread approval, right? Well, not from Pennsylvania Governor Tom Corbett.
Number 3.
There was a controversial remark made by a member of your legal team comparing gay marriage to the union of 12-year-olds, saying both are illegal, which you called inappropriate.
It was an inappropriate analogy. You know, I think a much better analogy would have been brother and sister, don't you?
I don't know. I don't know.
Wow. No, not necessarily at all. Baseball playoffs. We're still in them with some exciting games. The Red Sox winding it up over the Tampa Bay Rays. Here it is on WEEI.
Number 2.
One more strike to get. Koji peers over the glove. He rocks on a 2-2. Swing and a miss. He struck him out. It's over, and the Red Sox are headed to the American League Championship Series.
And number 1, we go right to the top. And a remark made on our show this week by Congressman Bruce Braley from Iowa about the hardship that members of Congress suffer now at the House gym.
Number 1.
There's hardly anybody working down there. There's no towel service.
No towels.
No. And so we're doing our own laundry down there. And we pay a fee to belong to the House gym. So, this is no different than if you're working at an employer that offers a wellness program, you pay a fee to belong. That's what we do there.
So
poor guy.
So, don't think that members of Congress are living high on the hog these days. They may still be getting their $175,000 a year salary, but they have to wash their own towels in the House gym.
Will not stand.
Times are rough, man. I got to tell you.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hundreds of AFSCME women from across the country came to Denver, Colorado for the AFSCME Women's Conference this September.
This is the year for AFSCME women everywhere. To challenge conventional wisdom about what makes a leader. To seek out mentors. To push beyond our fears and insecurities. And to push back beyond others' assumptions.
At the conference this year, a frequent topic of discussion was the importance of being a mentor and finding a mentor.
I work in child welfare,
So I've needed a lot of support throughout the years just to kind of get through, and I don't think I could have done it without some of my sisters back in Pueblo.
There were 1,001 excuses of why not to run. What if I didn't win? What if I couldn't fulfill the obligation? What if I'm not smart enough? Once I set aside those fears, it was easy. It's okay to ask for help, and not only is it okay to ask for help, it's okay to accept help.
An important topic of discussion at this year's conference was reinforcing the structural supports and programs that develop women leaders. And this year, AFSCME took a huge step to help members prepare for leadership positions by launching the Women's Leadership Academy, a 6-month program designed to help participants develop communication skills, outline their goals, and establish mentoring relationships with seasoned leaders.
My time at the Women's Leadership Academy allowed me to be able to come back to my local and showcase my skills better. It allowed me to become the leader that I know I am.
Because AFSCME is about action, conference participants also rolled up their sleeves and showed solidarity with their sisters and brothers in the Denver Housing Authority. AFSCME women were in action cleaning off graffiti, painting, and gardening. They also worked a phone bank, making calls in support of raising the minimum wage in New Jersey and against federal budget cuts to Social Security and Medicaid. And members reached out to sisters and brothers in Vermont via Skype, urging them to the finish line in their ongoing organizing campaign for home care providers in the Green Mountain State.
It's great that there's so many men and women from AFSCME who have been behind this whole thing and are still supporting us. I really feel like we're almost there. We can say they're our brothers and sisters.
I was taught a long time ago that if your hair is on fire, you ought to act like your hair is on fire. So we're not going to pretend anymore in legislatures across this country and governors' mansions across this country. We got folks elected to office who have a disdain for people. They are heartless.
When the governors go after your retirement security, find a way. When they try to silence your voices and steal your power, find a way. When the boss wants to deny the promotion you deserve, simply because you're a woman, sisters, find a way.
Our union is 58% women, I think is what President Saunders said earlier. So, I mean, we're the majority. I mean, it's time for us to step up and step forward and lead our union.
For AFSCME TV, I'm Astrid Zuniga.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour, Friday, October 11, The Bill Press Show. Coming to you live from our nation's capital, our studio on Capitol Hill, and brought to you today by the International Association of Machinists. The good men and women of the Machinists Union under President Tom Buffenbarger sharpening America's edge on the global economy. You bet you can find out more about their good work at their website, goiam.org. So, as we've been talking through the morning, the House Republicans met, a group of them, delegation of the leadership, met with President Obama at the White House yesterday. They walked in with a proposal saying, here's our deal. We will lift the debt ceiling, but for 6 weeks only, and we will leave the government shut down while we negotiate some other budget items. Derek Thompson joins us here in studio. He's a senior editor for The Atlantic. Hey, Derek, good to see you.
It's good to be back.
For the business community, you live in New York, right? Knowing that the debt ceiling will be lifted, we will not default on our bills until Thanksgiving. Does that provide any relief or certainty the business community is looking for?
Right. Well, the pessimistic take on this would be that it delays everything and fixes nothing. The optimistic take, I suppose, would be that any delay of the debt ceiling does fix something because it creates more time. And right now, time is an enemy, right? The closer we get to the debt ceiling, the more nervous the financial community becomes that we're going to breach it. And we saw in 2011.
Why are they going to feel good if they get a relief for only 6 weeks?
Oh, I don't think this is the ideal solution at all. All I'm saying is that certainly the closer you get to the debt ceiling, the more nervous the financial community becomes. And we saw this in 2011. You saw the stock market start to really dip as we got closer to that X date. We saw interest rates begin to creep up a little bit, especially in short-term bonds. So the financial community gets more and more scared the closer we get to the debt ceiling. And so to a certain extent, I suppose you could say that any delayed the debt ceiling would probably make them feel a little bit better. At the same time, from the president's perspective, what does he get out of this? The Republicans have basically just asked for overtime. They've said, we understand the game ends October 17th. We'd like 6 more weeks to basically find things to make us do our job. And at the end of the day, that's what we're negotiating about. What do we have to give Republicans to force them to do their job, to fund the government, and to raise our borrowing authority?
Because the other side of this so-called deal, right, would be the government remains shut down. Why leave the government shut down?
Right, exactly. This isn't a deal so much as creating more time. It's just asking for overtime.
Well, but for the government, it's not asking for overtime. It's leaving the government shut down. So all those people who are now out of work, all those contractors are not getting paid. That just continues.
Right.
Who knows how long.
And that's one reason why, the Senate solution, which is now being hammered out, I think led by Senator Collins, is probably going to be a more interesting solution, a more palatable solution for the White House, a better way to begin negotiations. And what she's basically saying, she's saying, let's raise the debt ceiling not for 6 weeks, but for 3 months. That's not as long as I'd like, but it's longer than 6 weeks. And at the same time, let's also end the government shutdown. At the same time, because the White House is presumably getting more out of this, they're getting a longer debt ceiling increase, they're getting an end to the shutdown. Republicans in the Senate would also ask for a repeal to the medical device tax, which is in Obama's health care law, and ask for changes in income verification within the healthcare law as well, to make it a little bit harder for some people to get their tax subsidies. And so in this case, I think it's definitely a better place for the Obama administration to begin negotiations, but it also doesn't include what I think is going to be the key here, which is the sequester. The sequester, we forget, is still here, and it's still slashing spending at a time when the economy isn't strong enough to support it. And so I think that the deal we're probably going to see is that we get an end to the debt ceiling. We lift the debt ceiling. We get an end to the shutdown. We get some sort of tweak to the health care law in exchange for an end to sequestration or an end to an enormous bulk of sequestration that raises overall spending, and that helps Democrats and the White House, who see a slightly higher deficit in the short term, for being beneficial to the economy.
I think you may be too optimistic.
I'm always too optimistic when it comes to this city.
Because the Democrats have already said, 200 of them signed a letter saying if John Boehner were to hold a vote on a clean CR, they would vote for it. The proposal, the clean CR in front of the House, is the sequester budget. It's not more money. It's the sequester level budget. But you think that'll change?
Right. Well, that's a clean vote, right? And so I think that in addition, if you put together. The problem with the clean vote right now is that he would have to break the Hastert rule to even bring it to the floor, right? He would have to essentially say,
the so-called
Hastert rule. We don't have, which essentially says, I don't have, well, it says that you need a majority of your caucus to bring the vote to the floor. What he would have to do to have that clean continuing resolution vote brought to the floor is essentially acknowledge that he's not in control of his own party, that he essentially has to be the speaker of a coalition of Republicans and Democrats rather than the head of his own caucus. And that's an incredibly embarrassing thing for Boehner to do until the very last minute, at which point he can say, I have done absolutely everything I can, but in the interest of this great nation and our economy and blah, 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 I will now bring a clean resolution to the floor. And so I don't think that's going to happen until the 11th hour and 59th minute and 59th second. So I really think that in the short term, as far as negotiations go, I think we could see the sequestration bill come back into these negotiations.
All right. So now, for writing for The Atlantic on these economic issues and living up there in Wall Street, I want to know, what do people there think about senators like Rand Paul or like Richard Burr from North Carolina, or Congressman Ted Yoho, did I have it right? Yoho from Florida, who say, what's all this worry about the debt ceiling? It's not such a big deal. I mean, so if we don't raise the debt ceiling, we won't be able to pay all of our bills, but we'll pay some of our bills. We'll pay the interest on the debt, and so we will not be in default.
I think the feeling, well, at least from the people that I talk to in the financial community, lawyers and investors and analysts, their feeling is Washington is somewhat pathetic, but we do expect them to do the bare minimum. We expect them not to destroy the global financial system. We don't expect them to pass the perfect financial regulation law. We don't expect them to fix healthcare inflation overnight. We don't expect them to do all these things that are difficult, but we expect them to do the things that are easy. And passing a bill that raises the debt ceiling for a year, because we've already passed these laws that are racking up this debt. We're not racking up more debt. We're just saying we'll pay for the bills we've already promised to. That seems easy, so we expect them to do it. And until we get to the very, very end, I think most people are operating under the assumption that Washington is all about bluster and blunderbuss until we get to the very end. And so I think the expectation is still net, a deal is going to be done. But I think you're beginning to see a creeping frustration that a certain wing of the Republican Party is not like the sort of politicians we've seen before that are all blunder until the end. But they might just be wrong about the impact of not raising the debt ceiling.
Well, I was going to say, from your reporting, what would be the you mentioned, you went right away to the global market. On the American economy, on the global economy, what would be the impact? Is it sustainable? The
scariest thing, Bill, is that we actually don't know. This hasn't happened before. I mean, the U.S. has technically defaulted. We did in the late 1700s under Hamilton when we reorganized the debt. It's technically happened before. But in modern history, no rich country with the capacity to pay its bills as the U.S. does, as the U.K. does, as every other rich country does, has ever chosen not to.
But it hasn't happened before. But we certainly, though, given that we're not paying our debts, should have some idea of some of the possible consequences, right?
Right, yeah, sure, we do. I mean, the most likely consequence, essentially, is that the financial community gets completely freaked out by the fact that we've gone past the debt ceiling and can't legally pay all of the bills that we're owed. And so where do they go? Usually during a global financial crisis, they go into treasuries. But if treasuries are the very thing that we can't pay, then where do they go? Do they go to another country's bonds? Do they go into corporate bonds? No one knows exactly what they're doing. Are they going to liquidate all their gold and just try to be as liquid as possible? This sort of situation.
One of the places they don't go is to U.S. treasuries, right?
Or maybe they would try to. It's extreme, and just pay a higher interest rate. It's extremely confusing to think through exactly how a debt ceiling breach would work out in the financial markets, and it's literally the unthinkable. The idea that the U.S. would on purpose default on our own debt. And because it's unthinkable, most people haven't thought about it. And so you do have a situation where, we had a piece written for us by Mohammed Al-Arian, the CEO of PIMCO, which is the world's largest bond trader. And what he essentially said is, I don't know what happens after we go past the X date, after we breach the debt ceiling. And I don't want to find out. I imagine we'll see spiking interest rates. I imagine those spiking interest rates will reverberate throughout the economy. I imagine at some point that the Treasury will try to prioritize bond payments to investors so we don't technically default to them. But that means a 20, 30, 40% cut in domestic spending, which would create a depression, at least or a short-term recession. So it's horrible no matter how you think about it, and it is unthinkable.
We have Derek Thompson in studio with us here. Now, we're talking about this proposal. Remember, John Boehner put it on the table yesterday. The president met with Speaker Boehner and other House leaders. At the end of the meeting, they had reached no agreement, but they said they would have their staffs. They would have their staffs work through the night to see if there was some compromise they could come to. And then the president meeting with Senate Republicans this afternoon, who have a slightly different, actually a much different proposal on the table. Your take, your comments, your vote, up or down, 866-55-PRESS.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
12 minutes before the top of the hour, it is the Full Court Press, the Bill Press Show here on Friday, October 11th. Derek Thompson in town and in studio here. He's senior editor for The Atlantic, based in New York, but visiting us here in Washington. Nice of you to come down just for this show. We know
Thank you very much. Of course.
Yeah. He heard we had donuts today, so
right, we were glad to provide the limo service.
I'll always travel 400 miles for a good donut. Yeah. That's
Peter, what's going on?
So you said earlier this week that because of the shutdown that we should not pay the death benefits to military families, because if you're going to shut the government down, you should shut everything down so that people actually see what the government does and why it's good, right?
Well, I want to be clear that I did say that these families deserve every penny and they should be paid every penny, but that you cannot make exceptions for things that you like. We should open up the entire government because there's a lot of stuff we don't know about that's important.
Well, some people took that out of context and ran with it, of course. And so you're getting some comments from some right-wingers. Here's Bob Saucy, who says, Bill Press, you are a jerk. How can you say not to pay the death veteran benefits? You are disgusting, and you should be in jail. So
that's what you do with anybody you disagree with. They have
put them in jail.
They have to be in jail. Yeah. This is the right wingers' idea.
What a way to wake up. Good morning, everyone.
Right wingers' idea of a representative democracy. If you don't agree with me, you should be in jail.
Those are big jails.
Yeah, exactly. Build bigger jails.
Isn't it sort of like what they did in the old Soviet Union?
Yeah, right. And by the way, we got a helpful tip from Margaret Colvin, who listens and comments often, because we often talk about Ted Yoho from Florida, who says if we breach the debt ceiling, it's not that big of a deal. Easy way to remember his name, right? It's Yoho, kind of like Yahoo, right? Yoho, Yahoo. It's easy to remember that way. So there you go.
I just remember him as the large animal veterinarian.
That's right.
And why anybody would listen to anything he says about the debt ceiling.
Yeah, I think you mean Congressman, large animal veterinarian.
Yeah, he is. So how do we get out of this? And I guess, first of all, how long do you think the economy, right? And the economy's been doing up until this pretty well lately, right? Hasn't it? I mean,
sure. Oh, it's been. I mean, in a weird way, a kind of thermostatic recovery over the last 3 years. We grow at about 2% every single year. We add between 150 and 180,000 jobs basically every single month, and we have for the last 24, 36 months. In a weird way, the economy is sort of operating like a normal, healthy but slowish growing economy. The problem is that we're coming out of a huge ditch. So if you grow sort of average to slow, coming out of a horrible, horrible ditch, it's going to feel like an awful economy. And that's
so my
exactly
question is then, with this economy doing pretty well, how long can it tolerate a government shutdown? We've been 11 days so far, so that's not that long. But I mean, what if this does drag on for 3 weeks, a month? 6 months.
Right, and this is where it's hard to say. Right, on the one hand, you say, government as a share of the economy is what, 20, 25%, maybe high 20% if you account total government like state and local. But the federal government only takes in about 17% to 18, 19% of all income in the country. And so, it's not the entire economy, but at the same time, when the entire economy
it's a big
chunk of the economy.
Yeah.
And when you're looking, and still some parts of that spending are still going out, Social Security benefits and things like that. This is discretionary spending that's shut down. But the problem is this idea of uncertainty. It's this idea that you have a lot of people making decisions based on investments, and they're taking cues from what they see out of Washington and what they see out of New York. And if New York is terrified that Washington's going to screw everything up, then you do have some reverberations, and you do have consumers saying, I'm a little bit more uncertain about making that next big purchase, about that house, about that car. And these big purchases are what really drive economies and especially drive recoveries. And so you do see a situation, I think, and we did see this in 2011 with consumer sentiment, where as we approached the debt ceiling and people got more and more nervous and there was more and more, media worry, I think, dually about what is this going to do to us, that you had people sort of, pinch their wallets a little bit. And so I do think that these shutdown discussions have reverberations. But the fact is, even if they didn't, even if the economy were resilient, it would still be the wrong thing to do. Yeah. At the end of the day, we're basically trying to come up with negotiations to force Republicans to do the very first job they were supposed to do here, which is just fund discretionary spending at levels that are somewhat normal and don't default on the U.S. full faith and obligation to pay our debts.
Yeah, and that is a comment, and it makes so much sense, that the president has made over and over and over again. This is your job. Read the Constitution, right? This is your job.
This is their job, right.
And you don't demand extra bennies, right, or extra rewards, or hold people hostage to do your job.
That's basically my position here. I mean, I understand. I think, you can have a reasonable debate about whether or not Obamacare is the right direction for the United States healthcare law. I think that's a really interesting debate to have, and it should be had between elected representatives fighting over bills, negotiating them, and then passing them. It shouldn't be had over one side saying, we're not going to open the government and we're not going to allow you to pay debts or pay Social Security or other parts of U.S. spending until we get exactly what we want. Yeah. That's not what government is.
No. And there are ways you can fix Obamacare, too, and probably should, but that's the way to do it, the way you just described. Derek Thompson from The Atlantic. It's theatlantic.com. Good work, my friend. Thank you for coming in. All right?
Good to be here.
We'll see you again soon.
Absolutely.
Next time we have donuts, we'll give you a call.
Let me know.
And I'll be back with a parting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show. The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, well, here we go again. You know, for 2 weeks now, with our big support, President Obama has made it clear two things have to happen. We have to reopen the government, and we must raise the debt ceiling. Yesterday, for a little bit, it looked like at our briefing yesterday that the president was going to accept John Boehner's proposal to raise the debt ceiling for only 6 weeks, but to leave the government shut down. I hope that is not the case. The president did not accept the deal at first, and he should not. This is a bad deal. How can the president possibly accept any deal that leaves so many vital federal programs shut down and hundreds of thousands of federal employees without pay? That's a bad deal for the American people, Mr. President. Stand tough, stick to your guns, don't accept it. Hey, folks, have a great weekend. We'll find out what happens on Monday.
This is the Bill Press Show.